Welcome. This is the Leads Are Shit podcast. It's a real estate magazine podcast, and normally I'm here with Andrew Foliato. He is the owner of Real Estate Magazine and also the founder of Just Sell Homes, a company that markets for real estate agents so they can just sell homes. And here today, I'm joined by somebody who's just someone who continues to have like depth and levels, even though I've been spending more time with him, right? Like this is Ray Ellen, and Ray, you come from Central Arkansas,
Yeah. Yeah. Right in the middle of the state.
and you are the owner and broker at Pixel Properties.
Yeah. I'm the owner of the team Pixel Properties. We actually just joined with Real Brokerage about 4 years ago. So
Oh,
now it's just a big
fantastic.
team within Real.
So is that like, would you describe the model that you run as like a teamerage?
Yeah, pretty much. My team is definitely a teamerage. It's kind of like a brokerage under the umbrella of another brokerage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that actually can make a pretty that's a pretty mean machine these days, is in a sense where you can run a brokerage and still have like the system supporting you.
Yeah. And the overhead's so light for me because they take it all off. And then I get to offer the things that big companies can offer, like stocks, rev share, um, awards, stock bonuses, retirement. I mean, I can't do that as like a little boutique guy. So
But
it's a big
you
plus.
run a boutique vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important to us to maintain.
Like Pixel Properties is a brand that you built from scratch. You're the founder.
Yeah.
And you've been 17 years in real estate?
Yeah, I started in '07. Actually, back up 1 year. I started in 2006. I was an assistant to a whole bunch of real estate agents. I was their marketing guy. And so I was doing, this is back when the day, like 360 tours were brand new. I think I did the first 360 tour in Arkansas. I brought this company to Arkansas called Visual Tours back then. And
Can you
you,
define 362?
yeah, 360 tours were, well, it's just like it is today, where you could click and kind of like Matterport does, right? You just kind of click and go through the property. But back then it wasn't one camera. You had to take multiple photos. I had to put a camera on a tripod and go and then take all these photos and then stitch them together in post. And
Hmm.
so it was a huge problem. It took tons of time. But I was doing that. I was creating these websites for real estate agents that were like 123mainstreet.com and these one pagers. And I was really good at it. I marketed 49 million in property that year for other real estate agents. And then I thought, had I sold this, my life would be very different. So I got my license in January of '07. I had a wonderful 4 or 5 months. And then it was just like somebody turned the hose off, like the spigot was just like dry.
U.S.
And
financial crisis.
yeah, it was a
Fannie
big
Mae,
deal.
Freddie Mac.
Yep. Subprime
And
mortgages, the crash, all that jazz.
so Arkansas was flying before then?
We were doing well. Arkansas is fairly steady. So as the whole market goes up and goes crazy, Arkansas just gets a little bit better. As the whole market tanks and goes down, the deals in Arkansas just get a little bit better. So it wasn't ever like a situation where it was this, gigantic spike, gigantic fall until then. And
Hmm.
that's when you had like, I remember driving around in '08, and at the time I lived in Northwest Arkansas, and I would see these beautiful fields and then realize that those fields had streets and curbs and meters. And that was a development that just went belly up, never developed. And there were
Mm.
fields like that all over. And it was a pretty tough time. Before the crash, none of my friends had money, but everyone could buy a house. No doc, stated income loan. You walk into the bank, say, hey, I'd like to buy a house. They're like, well, give us your documents. You say, nah. They say, well, how much do you make? I make $1 million a year. Okay. Well, here, sign this note. You got the loan. No doc, stated income loan. I just tell you what I make.
Those were called ninja mortgages. No
Yeah, some people called
income,
them
no
ninja.
job, approved.
Correct. Yep. Yep. That's it. That's exactly it. So after the crash, none of my friends had money, and even the people with money couldn't buy a home. So it was tough. It was really tough. That was the hardest market I've ever been in.
Okay, do you remember what the relationship was between buyers and sellers at that time?
Yeah, pre crash, we would have uh, a closing at the same title company. The like pre crash, you'd have the buyer come in and the seller come in, and everybody would sign documents, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I left this can of paint in the garage for you," and somebody would be like, "Okay, we're really excited," and they're like, "Oh, you should know this that our neighbor said this," and you can. That's what closing was like. You'd have both parties at the same closing table. During the crash, we split closings because the seller was coming to the closing table crying because they're basically bringing money to the table. They've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. They couldn't stand to make the move they're making, but they had to make the move. And then buyers were coming to the closing table super excited because they just got a good deal on a home. And so you had this huge juxtaposition of emotion. And when the seller would see how excited the buyer was, there were many times where the seller was like, "I'm not closing."
Hmm.
So that's when you started in Arkansas. We started doing split closings where the seller chooses their title company, the buyer chooses their title company, and everybody just kind of closes on their own.
Okay, we're going to unpack that in a second because there's going to be some people here that need some clarification because the closing process in Arkansas is very different from what
Yeah.
some of the people in our audience will know. So hang on to that thought and let's welcome in some of the people that have joined us today. You can join our live webinar audience every Thursday. We're here at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I think it's 1 p.m. where you are, Ray, and where I'm at, it's noon, and out on
Oh,
the West Coast, it's 11 a.m.
yeah.
And you can come in and join us, just like some of the people that we know here, like Anita. Good to see you, Anita. We also get some people that come in pretty regularly, like Craig Knopfley, big team leader in Ontario. We also end up with people from my market. My name's Taylor. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a team leader. And Leanne Chisholm and I were able to do some business previously, earlier this year, actually. Um, what we'd really like is for you guys to enter the chat and do what Aspen did. She's from Central Alberta, and she's telling us exactly where she is because you know what? There's some people that can get into the exchange here. The other thing is, I was just talking about, Ray was talking to me about market balance, and I want to hear about that in your city. So talk to us in the chat about buyers and sellers markets. And we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes after the recording if you guys want to ask questions that are very specific. But you can just fire into the chat. We are looking to jam, and Ray is a notable speaker. So you can find him on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of well thought out ideas. Like there's a whole bunch of people that share opinions. I like people that share ideas, and that's why Ray and I jam.
For sure.
So this is interesting because look at the market now in most major markets throughout North America.
Yeah.
And look how few people there are that have seen things like this before live.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
What is it? 13% of agents have been in the business more than 5 years.
More than 2 years. 87% fail in the first 2 years. So
So
yeah,
in a in that statistical environment, look how many people were around during the U.S. financial crisis that are still here now that can see how to adapt. By
that's such a kind
comparison,
way to call someone old. That's very good.
yeah, the we use a whole bunch of code. We would say that something's cozy. Ooh,
Yeah, there you go.
immaculate. Immaculate's a good code word.
Immaculate's code. Yeah, that's code word.
Yeah,
Never using code word for old dude.
yeah, totally. Adjust your trousers.
That's right.
I can't see your ankles, sir. Um,
Craig agrees. I was literally typing that. Thanks for making us feel old, Tyler.
actually, I like making that connection. You and Craig. Um,
That's funny.
yeah, yeah. Craig's been on our show, and the way that he approaches business, oh, it's a mindful introvert approach to business. Like,
Love that.
yeah, like success is normally evidence of intelligence. Like a lot of people can say they're smart, but what have they actually done with it?
Yeah, 100%.
So tie me back into that. So you had been a realtor for how long when this happened?
I've been a realtor for about 6 months before the crash, but I'll tell you when the crash happened, a lot of people talk about 08, 09.
Mm,
Very few people kind of remember when it was just when everything just stopped. And that was in 07. I was halfway through 07. It was weird.
mhm.
It was like a town that's hustling and bustling is now a ghost town. As far as like real estate leads, as far as real estate, like, you'd list a house and suddenly it wouldn't sell. Like, what is going on? I had a guy I was working with, he was a billionaire. He was looking at multi-million dollar land deals for him and his brother-in-law. And I had won this contract. It was the weirdest. I'll have to tell you this story some other time because I don't know if we have all the time for it. But basically, I met the billionaire at the airport with like 10 other real estate agents, and those 10 other real estate agents brought their brokers, and I didn't even think to do that. So it was just me with 6 months of real estate experience and these 9 other brokers who all brought their lead principal broker, owner of company. And he went around the table and talked to everyone, and they would try to like small talk him. He'd be like, "Don't give me that. Just tell me about the property." And so he was just asking property questions. I didn't have a listing that this guy was looking for. I just knew everyone else's listings. And so when he asked me, I was like, "Well, I think this is the best one for you, and this is why. And this person has this person has this." And I went through everyone else's, and he wound up using me. Fast forward a couple of months, he calls me and says, "Ray, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to call you and tell you we're not going to buy any land with you." I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, what have I done? This is terrible news." And he said, "The real estate market's going to crash and you should find a different job." And I'm like, "No, the real estate market's not going to crash. Everyone says it's crashed. It never crashed. It always goes up in value." And he said, "No, son, you don't understand. You need to find a different job." He said, "I like you, and I'm calling to tell you the real estate market's going to crash, and I could buy this for a song in a year or two." And I was like, "Oh no, there's no way. It's such a good piece of property. You should really, you don't know what's going to happen." He said, "I do know what's going to happen." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll see. I'll still be here. I'll still be working." And then that, like 2 months, 3 months after that call, that's when everything just kind of stopped. And then the year later is when it crashed for sure. Everyone was going belly up because it couldn't last any longer. So
And
it was a tough environment.
that's something that's kind of interesting because in some of the last couple of years, we've been seeing a lot of news about the real estate market, but it wasn't actually documented evidence like transactions. There were less transactions, but those transactions were not really moving down in price because sellers were
Yeah.
holding out or resisting. And then what you were seeing was when that ended for most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And suddenly sellers would start to do the things it would take to outdo other sellers to find that available buyer in a market where there's like, what was it, one buyer for three sellers, one buyer for four sellers?
Yes, if that. I mean, it was complete desperation in some neighborhoods that was just people were just letting them go, foreclosing.
Hmm.
And
Oh, and
ultimately, if you couldn't sell, they would just let it go.
what's consumer protections in foreclosures in Arkansas like? So I've seen it in places in the United States where, let's say, a property has a market value of 700,000. Somebody bought it for like 1.2. But market value in a rough time at 700,000, but they only owe $400,000 on it. So the bank forecloses and lets it go for 400.
Uh, I think the bank lets it go and then sells it for market. So the bank takes it over if you don't pay, and then they sell it for whatever market is.
Oh, so they get
I,
to keep the difference.
well, they keep the difference but pay off what you owe, and then I think you still owe. I think you still have to pay. I don't know what that's when you go to court and all that stuff goes to foreclosure court with the foreclosure attorneys and all that jazz.
Okay, because here it's very much a court process where I'm at in Alberta. And that's why, like, there's lots of consumer protections here. So they
Yeah.
make sure that those things are sold for fair market value. And if it's more than what the bank
Yeah.
is owed, the money goes back to the person that was foreclosed on.
I don't, well, I mean, in that environment, if it was more than what they owed, they could have sold it themselves.
Hmm.
So in almost every instance, it's far less, far, far less
Yeah,
than what
yeah,
they owed.
yes, I would agree.
But yeah, I don't know what the full protection is, but I think there's a lot of banks I know banks have policies that it has to hit the market. You can't sell it off market. And then that's how you're sure to get whatever that market value is.
Okay, so let's talk about that now because now we have like we were just talking, super old Ray that has all this
Yeah.
experience, right?
Great graybeard Ray.
Yeah. So what's the relationship of buyers to sellers in your market now like?
More balanced.
Okay. Put
There's
in
still
months of
more
inventory?
supply. I mean, yeah, I mean, we have, actually, I was just running reports on this. I can look at one. Um, Now we have more of a balance, but because balance is so out of whack compared to what it was 5, 4, 3 years ago, that balance feels like imbalance. Balance feels like, oh my goodness, it's such a buyer's market. It's really not. It's just not the seller's market it was. Aspirational pricing fell out last year. This year, when we're doing comparative market analyses, we're looking at, let's say I do one for a house and this house could sell for $500,000. Um, but the alternative is that, you could potentially, based on the quality of the build and everything with some adjustments, maybe get 510, 515. We last year would tell our clients, you could price it at 515. If nothing happens, move quickly down to 5. Now we're saying last year we'd tell you 515. This year I'm going to tell you that 500 is probably your absolute top. And if it doesn't sell, now you're going to have to go down. So we are adjusting seller expectations because although the comparables suggest that they could price at a higher price, that is not what we're seeing in real life.
Because the time value of money. Like
Yeah,
those were examples from the past.
correct.
Mm.
And we're seeing a deceleration. So if you real estate agents out there should really consider doing a whenever you do the market analysis, we do three things. We do a full comparative market analysis, what other stuff sold for, suggesting a range and what this home should sell for. Then we do an absorption rate analysis. Is the rate of absorption of homes in the area speeding up or slowing down? So you basically have to look month by month over the last 6 months or so. Then you look over the year, what is supply based on that absorption rate analysis. So that's the full absorption rate analysis. If sales are speeding up, then you could lean towards the high part of your range. If sales are slowing down, then you need to lean towards the low part of the range to be competitive. Then once we have that number, we look at active properties that a buyer would consider competitive to this property. And we say, based on that, if we price at that price point that we're saying is a deceleration in the market, it's a lower price point, are we competitive with the current active listings? Because if we know that there are 5 buyers a month looking in this neighborhood or in this area, and we see that there are 7 properties on the market, well, you would think, well, yeah, we could kind of price towards the middle. But if we've seen a deceleration, then we could predict that only maybe 4 or 3 buyers would actually buy in the next 30 days. So if you want to sell in the first 30 days, now how does that price point look? Are we in the top 1 or 2, or are we in the bottom 4? Because if we're in the bottom 4, it's going to take 60 to 90 days to sell.
You and I have some parallel thought here. So I basically do a probability of selling in the competitive group. So we could see that maybe in a neighborhood over the last 90 days, there was 30 listings.
Yeah.
Maybe like 5 of them are still trying. And then there's like 10 of them sold and 15 were unable to sell. Well, now you're 10 for 25.
Yeah.
So basically, there's one buyer for probably close to 3 sellers,
Right.
which means that if you're on the podium among 7 or 9 other listings, only first place gets an offer. Second and third are what we call the bridesmaids to that wedding.
Yep.
So, knowing where that is, the other thing that I did as well in down markets was to calculate basically like a junk analysis. So, I took a look at all the properties that were unable to sell versus the ones that were able to sell. And when you zoom out, you discover that if anyone does like 60 days without changing in price, they basically have like less than 5% likelihood to sell.
Yeah. I can see that.
So it's interesting because that's also part of the way to work in a market that takes longer to measure because it has less activity, is to basically kind of take a look and say, all right, we're going to need to make some changes to stay relevant because new inventory is going to come and buyers care about
Right.
new deals.
Right.
So can you tell me about what you saw before that has cued like a more experienced version of you now? That is
Oh,
like things that are in the same playbook that you're using now that you find are getting you um, the right opportunities, which is sellers that have a good reason to sell and buyers that you can help through having too many options.
uh, man, that's such a loaded question because I would say there's probably there's probably three main things that are kind of gearing us up. One is people who purchase homes through the is this live streamed on YouTube?
It is only live here in this Zoom,
Okay.
and then it will go onto YouTube later.
So you do put on, okay. I'll guard what I say then, because sometimes they still inhibit you. But people that were that bought and sold during the pandy, that's what I call it on my show, because I don't want to get
I
throttled.
see what you mean. Okay.
Yep. So people that bought and sold during that time period and had an okay experience with their agent, but do not trust their agent in a more challenging market. Or maybe they had a bad experience. I just visited with somebody this morning that just had a terrible experience with their agent through that time period. But at the time, they were fine using their friend, even though they didn't have that much experience, because, all you had to do was stick a sign in the yard and you'd sell the house. So those experiences, expired listings, for sale by owners, those are all challenging right now. And we have a proven track record and a promise that we can fulfill about selling homes. And so that's been attractive to a lot of people, just the years of experience and the thousands of clients that we've helped versus, we really don't know what we're doing is starting to come out.
I love it.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of leads to the second thing would be the skills-based economy. I love a skills-based economy because I am skillful, because I know what to do. I love it. If I was in the position of not really knowing what I would do, this would scare me to death. I was once in that position. I'll get there in just a second. So it really didn't scare me to death. But if I didn't have the wherewithal to do what I did back then, which I'll explain to you what I did, then this would kind of scare me to death because now is a time where negotiation has never been more important. And if you don't recognize at what point in the contract to negotiate versus what point to get that other agent on my side so that they're negotiating on my behalf against their client. If you don't understand how to use language and thought and reason and logic to do that to another agent, then you're either going to get your lunch ate by people who do, or you're not going to win clients. If you don't understand the marketing aspect of our job in a way that, you didn't have 90 days to market a property. So if you didn't understand how to not blow your wad in the first week, but you have to time this out over a potential 90 to 120-day listing process to maximize that client's value, then you're going to be lost. So those are the things that over time we've developed and we've put into our processes and we've put into our business, and we know that they work. We know how to do them. We know the price we should pay Facebook to distribute. I know the price I should pay a videographer to do these things. I know the editors that I have in the back room in the Philippines that could do all this other stuff for me. So I've got this team that's been ready, but we just, we didn't have to use them that often. We maybe use them once every 5 to 10 listings in the last couple of years. But now it's like every listing is getting that treatment. And this is going to be great because now I'm going to be forefront because yes, I'm having to spend more money per listing, but that's not a big deal because I'm going to get more and more listings. I'm going to get more and more buyers because more and more people are going to see me, see my marketing. Then they're going to talk to me. We'll be able to convert them. We'll be able to sell them the house, or, we'll be able to sell the houses to the marketplace because we're putting them out there in front. So
Hmm.
there's all these skills that you have to survive this market that we're going to be in.
Yep. And that was a market that I very much developed in because my market was diminishing from like 2015 to 2021, pretty much. So that listing, making a client experience that you
Yeah,
deliver over, an average 60 days, is what you're kind of shooting for. Bringing people a pricing strategy instead of a price.
exactly.
And also, finding, like doing enough analysis that you could see who is poised to win in that market and delivering that message and then helping them win. Like when my market was in a significant buyer's market, what it took was understanding that real estate is almost like stocks, and you are selling a lower position to buy a higher position. And if you're buying more than you're selling, you're by definition a buyer, and this is your
Yeah.
market. But then we would have to find the group that would be able to make it work. So we knew that when our market went down in 2015, we kind of needed to find people that bought or sold in 2011 or 2012
Yeah.
because they would have had enough
They have the
up that
equity.
they'd
Yeah.
have the equity to perform on this. So now that we've revealed the people that can win, it's like deliver that message and then help them score those touchdowns.
Yeah. Those would be we kind of call those the easy wins, right? The ones that, everything is now crafted for them to succeed in this market. Um, but however, everyone is also going to go after those when they can kind of figure this out.
Mm.
So, where I think the real money is made is in the challenge, and maybe it's just because I like puzzles, but in the challenge of helping people win that everything is stacked against. If I can figure out how to help them have the best possible experience, and if I can craft language for them that helps them move and makes the decision they want to make so that their family is in the better spot for them, then the world is my oyster. Because while everyone is going after hey, this is right for you. For instance, when it's a buyer's market, right? Hey, this is right for you. You should buy right now because this is the market we're in. The rate's never been lower. It's a crazy buyer's market. So you go after buyer, 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 buyer. In a buyer's market, if you can figure out how to give the seller a win, then all the sellers are yours. So I think my team, I try to set them up with those easy at bats. Like, hey, this is the target market. Go after the target market on all of their social media and everything. I'm like, this is them, just like you were describing. Like, that's who you need to go after. For me as the team lead, I'm trying to craft a system and a process or process, as you say, and an experience that helps those who don't have the easy win so that they will pick us and say, you know what? This is a hard market. I use this guy and his team. This is that testimonial is so valuable. So recently we had a situation which a lady's listing expired with another company. We relisted it, priced it at the same price, and sold it in a matter of days. And she was like, how? Like, it's called marketing. This is what we do. We put it in front of more buyers than it had ever been in front of. It had quality photos. We told them what to do to get the home ready. They went through that process and boom, it's sold. So now she's telling everybody, this is a challenging market for sellers in their area. And she's like, you should use them. You should use them. So that I do love that aspect, because if it was easy, that's where all the easy money's going to go. That's where the agent that just got their license is going to go. That's, that's where those 87% of agents that fail, that's where they're going to be hitting. The hard ones are the ones they're going to avoid. There's a lot of agents right now that have told me, I don't really want to carry a bunch of listings. And I'm like, all right, well, this is where I'm going to eat up all the listings. I want all the listings because it's less competitive. And I figured out a way to get those listings to win. So
Hmm.
like in the meeting that I had this morning, the serious conversation we were having was, what's it worth for you to live in the place where you want your family to live? Is it worth giving up the equity that you have to make a fast move to be in the next place for the next 10, 15 years? And whenever you take the equity that they're giving up and you divide it by that 10 to 15 years, the obvious answer is yes. So how many other agents are going to be able to craft phrases like that to connect with that seller and help them make a decision for their family instead of just staying in a home that they hate for 5 years? Like that sounds miserable. So how can we look at this differently so that you don't feel like you're making a dumb decision? Because it really is not a dumb decision to be in a place that you love and spend your life there. Because if you live to 100 and you spend 10 years at a place, that's 10% of your life. And life is way shorter than that. So
That's
it's
a good
just
point.
not worth it. It's just not worth it to me to not have those quality conversations and help people make the decisions.
Yeah, I actually I like where you're going with that because normally the people that will participate that aren't participating is because they feel as though they'll be judged by their peers. They're worried about asking the questions that would even lead to this conversation because the people around them have such a negative view of real estate, often related to news and other things that they're consuming. So it is neat to just address the fact that there's families out there that need additional bedrooms. Yes,
Yeah,
real estate is about numbers, but when you look back on it, you don't think about the year that it gained 10%.
right.
Yeah, you think about like the fact that you had a backyard that supported your dog.
Yeah. You care about living in the community that you want to live in, to make commutes easier, to make, give you more time with your kids, to get them involved in whatever sports they're going to be in, to get them to play with the other kids down the street. I mean, those are the things that really matter. It's not the fact that you're giving up a little equity.
How do you find these people?
I mean, they found me through word of mouth from someone else that I helped similarly. That one
Yeah,
specifically, but
but how do you
it's a
use that at scale? Like, when you take a look at this as your like, as really a lot of what your business about is marketing.
so we get a lot of calls. We get a lot of inbound calls, and I store stories like what I just told you to be able to tell other people on the phone, and I do that a lot. Where what I want to do is to be able to publish those stories in a more meaningful way. That's one of the things we're working on currently, is like case studies and testimonials and things like that that make it, that tell some of these stories without revealing who it is, um, because I need to get it out there more publicly. But it's also going to make the phone ring more, and we already have a lot of leads. We have a lead follow-up problem at the moment. So I got to fix that.
Sounds like you've got some overflow.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
need more people. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of I think that that is the way that people take in information is as stories.
yeah,
So what we're really trying to do to get those sellers in that market informed is to give them information and insight.
yeah,
And I really do think that case studies are a good take on that. To basically
yeah,
say like, hey, you know what? Here's some examples of what this actually looks like as you go through.
yeah. And then sharing more like on the blog, more case studies, putting pamphlets out in front of people with like little short stories of, is it worth it? I mean, that's a great question on the top. Is it worth it for you to give up some equity to live where you really want to live? Or shorter, do you hate where you're living? You know, those kinds of things out there, those kinds of hooks to catch people's attention. And then you can share some of these stories.
Mm.
Because, a lot of our job as real estate agents, yes, it's marketing. Yes, it's helping people find a home. But a huge portion of it is helping people make decisions.
One of the things that I've noticed is often the decision makers are kind of split in their motivation, and there's the elements of families that family business is often a difficult subject, right? Most people in their relationship have a provider. Like in my relationship, it's definitely like income in and income out through my wife.
Yeah.
But she's the one who is like the lifestyle designer for our kids.
Yeah.
Uh, and we try to learn techniques to have better conversations about how this looks. Um, and it's not working because I still feel like she works on me. But but I think that this is like a lot of our clients is
Yeah.
she wants to move and he doesn't like change. And so the conversations about it are difficult. And even when they do talk about houses, he is like, we can do the work. And she's like, I remember the last renovation. and
Yeah.
they have these little disconnects that they kind of avoid. When you're talking to people like from the different buyer types, like the ones that are analytical, or, for me, the reason I mention that is because I like to deliver a message that she can take to him.
Yeah.
So if the way he's defending is finances and saying, like, hey, like, new houses are expensive, and she can deliver back to him, well, you know what? The value of our house is supposed to have gone up 10% last year.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But that's in my market, which is a rising market, right?
I think in our market, people are still retaining their gains. They're just not getting anything else. Like there's no kind of aspirational. Nobody's going to write you a check for $50,000 over list right now. But we've maintained the gains that we've got over the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, when I'm having conversations, I really try to have as many conversations as possible with both people at the same time. And that you'll see different objections, but a lot of times they're kind of handled. I don't handle them like direct. I am asking them questions that lead them kind of on their own exploration to, because if they can tell me the answer, then I'm not the one quote providing the answer, right? I'm not the one convincing them. I'm just asking questions. So for instance, if someone is like, well, houses are really expensive right now, I would ask the question, what do you think it's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? More expensive. So wouldn't it be better to move now and then get the benefit of the equity increase? I'm just asking questions. So as I'm trying to ask as many questions as possible so that they can see, oh, I understand now. So he's just I'm not telling them like it's better, it's worse. I'm not telling them the green shed carpet's got to go. I'm saying what changes would you make to the home? Because actually, the funny story, when I was young in the business, I walked into a home and I was like, ew, the green shed carpet reminds me of my grandma's house. And the lady was like, it's one of the reasons we love it. I went, I have different tastes than my buyer. Maybe I should just stuff it. And then, so now I ask more vague questions about those kinds of things. But when they're asking me, should we offer now or not? I'm saying, well, what would it mean for you to be in the next home sooner?
Hmm. I see where you're going with that. And I think that the way that weak salespeople approach this is they say the things that they want to hear.
Yes, 100%.
And what you actually want to do is cause the conversations that make the people that should be working with you say the things that you want to hear.
Correct. You want them to say it.
Yeah, so I also like it as a technique in general, and it depends on how you approach things. But approaching them with questions is definitely like a higher belt level way to approach things. It can also work for people that don't really feel comfortable um, in the statements. Like there's a lot of people
Yeah.
that would really be want to be a better listener, and this is for you.
Yeah. It's
So
a
when
it's a Jesus move. He asked a bunch of questions, made people think.
there you go. Now, when I'm talking to people, I like to kind of navigate, and I do it using an old school term called forward. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
And that helps me like almost like if I was looking at the map of the mall and it gives you like the little arrow, like you are here.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, okay. Based on the age of your kids, you're probably in your second house, and this is what your daily is like. And normally, when
Mhm.
people want to move, it's at this age. If your kids are around 10, it's because your income has outgrown this part of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that really helps me get to where they are. And for people that don't know, it's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And trying to understand that or even talk about that in a reasonable way on a phone call with someone who's semi stranger to you,
Yeah.
that's where the skills are.
Yeah. That's something the relationship aspect is definitely something I need to work on more. I'm the I'm the guy that as you go through the whole process, you'll love me. You'll love the process that we go through. You'll love the buying and selling of the home. You'll have a really good experience. And then at the end, we won't be friends. And that's really normal for me. And it's normal for them too, because the amount of like real relational stuff that I share or get involved with is so limited that it's very limited to the experience of buying and selling. And so I've never gone to a close. Well, there was only one. I've gone to one closing where a client got me something. But I see people all over. Like I see these wonderful agents that are like, "Oh, look at what my client got me, this amazing closing gift." And I'm like, "That's never happened for me," because I'm not like buddy buddy friend friend with them. But they'll rave about the experience. They'll rave about what we did for them. And so there's an unlock there that I've got to figure out. It's probably somewhere in the Ford, talking about family and relationship and dream. Uh, but I'm definitely more on the like business side. Like I'm the best at what I do. I'll do it for you, and you're gonna love it. But when we close, I'll invite you to the client parties and all that kind of stuff. But we won't be buddy buddy. And I've never become buddy buddy with any of my clients ever. I have worked with clients that are my buddies,
Hmm.
but I've never like had a client and then been like, I want to hang out with them forever. It's
Hmm.
just I'm a on the Enneagram. Are you familiar with Enneagram?
No.
Oh, you got to take it. It's good. I'm a five. And so for the listeners out there, they went, "Oh wow, it's amazing that this guy is even talking." I a five is like introverted in the cave, which if you're watching, I'm kind of in a cave. And the five is very I don't want people to need me and I don't need anyone, but I want people. And so it kind of creates a juxtaposition for some people that are twos, because twos, they want to be the reason you're happy and they want you to need them, right? They want you to be happy, but they want to be the reason and you must need them. And if you don't need them, they're offended. So, fives versus twos in relationships, if I have a two that's a client, I have to somehow recognize that they need me to need them. And I mean, it's just very, for me as a five, that's a very confusing place to be. But yeah, so I'm very loner, very introverted, but I'm really good at what I do.
Mm. That's interesting.
Craig, see, yeah, I'm very similar to Craig apparently. He said, I call myself a hired gun. Make sure they understand my lack of emotional interest keeps me able to help with rational decisions. This is
Natalie's asking for the test name again.
it's an Enneagram. Enneagram. It's
Cool.
based on a book it's a really good book. It's called Road Back to You, I think it's called.
Yeah, I have some of those aspects that you were talking about, where I I also don't see things the same way other people do, like status.
Yeah.
Um, and I have a few people that are close friends with me, and a lot of them it's because they'll make it go. Like they call me, and really a lot of my relationships kind of are similar to you and I, where it feels like yesterday when we talk, even though it could have been 6 months ago, and I have some friends that it's like 7 years ago, and it just like comes back together and feels the same way the moment that we're together.
Yeah.
But when we're apart, it's back to like just autonomy.
Yeah. I've got friends like that from high school that I haven't seen in like 10, 15 years, and I'll see them pick right back up.
Hmm.
Somebody asked how to spell it. It's Enneagram. And yeah, you could be a bit of a type five.
Yeah, interesting. But also, for me, I know that some doctors like the way that they're comfortable touching people's bodies, to be like, hey, does this hurt or whatever else. That's
Yeah.
a variation. You see some doctors that are like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to touch them, and they're and they
Yeah,
like
I
put the
don't mind
gloves
touching
on,
anybody.
and then you see other doctors that just like see their experience as being human, and
Yeah.
they kind of get more involved. For me, I actually often feel as though the job is done well when I share just enough about me to help you share about you
Yeah.
so that I can help you better. Because I think that helping you best is that you make decisions like an expert by standing on my expertise. And I
Yeah.
help you do that by getting to know you well enough. to guide you.
That's very much of like a building a story brand type of thing where they are the hero and we are the guide. And
Mm.
that's the same approach. That's the same approach that I like to take. That's why I want to ask them questions and they make the decision. So I can say, hey, you did a great job at this. As
Ah.
a matter of fact, one of the opening lines in my listing presentation is that there are three questions every seller must ask. Is now the right time? Am I the right agent? And what's the right price? And I find that if I can answer those three questions for my clients, they know if they want to proceed and they know if they want to proceed with me. So the what's the right time, I share market information with them. And then I say, but if you need to move, none of this matters. All the market data doesn't matter because you're buying and selling in the same market. Especially in that situation, it doesn't matter. Then I say, the next question answers, who's the right agent? You've made a wonderful decision. I'm sitting right there in front of them. So I usually will take awesome decision on this so far. And I kind of laugh and then they laugh. And then I take them through an interview and I basically interview myself in front of them. And then I give them a copy. I'm like, if you're interviewing other agents, you should ask them all these questions. And I pulled the questions from online. I'm giving the right answers. So I'm basically giving them an interview that only I can pass. If
Mm-hmm.
they ask these questions of any other agent, they're going to fail.
Mm.
And then the last one is what's the right price? So that's where we talk about the comparative market analysis, market absorption, and then we talk about the competitive listing analysis, is what I call it, your grouping probability type of thing. And then at the end, I say, is that price going to work for you? And if they say yes, I flip over to the contract and I write that in the contract and I say, well, let's go through the listing agreement. That's it.
How much time does it take start to finish?
Depends if they've bought and sold a lot in the past. Um, it's very, very short. I would say 30 to 45 minutes. If they are fairly new, they're probably going to have a lot of questions. They're probably going to have a lot of questions. And those questions will make it last anywhere from an hour to sometimes two. If they want to give me a full tour and they're super talkative, I kind of have to say like, hey, I got a 2 hour out, but those will usually go like 2.5 hours. So
Yeah,
they're
they
only
really
as long as
can.
they need to be, but sometimes based on the person, they need to be really long.
Yeah, but you know what? If you do a 3 hour market evaluation, they won't want to do another one with another agent.
That's true. Now, we had a guy recently that was interviewing 5 different agents, and he had interviewed 3 of them and then interviewed us. And then, like, he was like, this is the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Like, I would just hire y'all right now, but I have this appointment the next day. So we set up a follow up appointment because somebody that's true to keep appointments, they're going to keep an appointment. So we set up an additional appointment for the next week. And so we got back together with him and he said that other agent had stood him up and there was like, there's no other choice. We were the most
Oh,
expensive that he wanted to hire. And we were the one who told him it would sell for less than everyone else. And he hired us.
because it made sense.
Yeah.
Most
The
people are
value
like
proposition
have
was there.
some level of resistance to being hoodwinked,
Yeah.
and some more than others.
Well, and we set up like we poisoned the well. We told them, like, he was like, well, this other agent said it could go for this 370 price. And I'm like, well, let me show you how they calculated it. So I turned around the computer in front of them and said, if you just take the averages of everything that's sold in the market, including this one and this one, you get 370. So that's all they did. They didn't do any extra work. Let me show you how we adjust that to get to the price that we did. This one has a slanted driveway, yours doesn't. This one has this and that, and yours doesn't have those. So it's going to be discounted. Went through the whole thing. And by the end of it, he was like, oh, I can see where you arrived at your price and why they got theirs. So they're not experienced. I didn't say
Mm,
that, but he did.
exactly. And that's exactly what you would love to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That idiot doesn't
yeah.
know what yeah, I would love to say that,
Yeah,
but
he
I'm
had
not going to
Cloud
get that.
CMA, and then they have a button called Quick and Dirty. Uh,
Yeah. Is there really a button that says quick and dirty?
I think it
Because
might have been one of their updates.
I do an analysis called a quick and dirty, and I tell people like, hey, I just want you to know this is quick and dirty. It's just the average price per foot of what's happening multiplied by your square footage. There's zero adjustments. It could be wildly inaccurate, but you asked what are homes going for price per foot. This is it. This is the answer.
Mm,
But then that usually opens up a bunch of other questions like, well, what would it be if you adjusted? Well, I got to come over. I got to see the house.
hmm. Yeah, that's definitely. a great approach when it comes down to helping people understand the market. I like your absorption and talking about like the adjustments off the comps. And really, when you're approaching the market with pricing, what do you like? Is there a method to the madness of pricing for you?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's letting them select it in the end. My favorite thing to do is the analysis right in front of them. To turn around the computer and say, all right, here are the comparables. This is what they are. Is this home better or worse than yours? Is this home better or worse than yours? And then at the end, they're like, well, the numbers say this. I'm like, yeah, does that work for you? And if they say yes, then we move on to absorption rate, which I already have done that because that's more intensive math. But then we look at that and then say, all right, how's it stack up versus the other properties in the neighborhood? And then if we're there, we write down the price and go.
Hmm.
I love doing it with them. That every person, almost across the board, when we turn the computer around and say, well, look at this with us. Here's your home. Here are the solds. We select these. We do this. We move this adjustment. We make this adjustment. Every person that I've done that with live says, nobody else has done this. It's very clear to see what we should be pricing ours at. And I understand the pricing process better than I ever have. So they really like that. So that's become, and I guess in the last year or two, that's become more of a strategy. I used to show up with everything done, like full report printed out, and it's all beautiful. Not as effective. Not as effective at all. And I tell them, like, I want you to know I've already done this. I deleted all the answers, and I want you to do it. Let's do it together. So we do it together.
Hmm.
It's been really good.
That's also helpful because while you're doing it live, they get to understand that you are solving problems they didn't even know were going to be problems.
Yeah.
And that's why you would need someone, right?
Yeah.
Is I can't do what you just did, and you made it look easy.
Yeah. That's 100. Yeah. I mean, they look at Zillow and stuff, and it's all crazy numbers. So,
Yeah,
uh,
sometimes people ask me about stuff like that, and they're like, "Yeah, like how accurate is this?" And I said, "Well, it depends on what job you're trying to do." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Okay, are you trying to give someone a number that a buyer will pay today, or are you trying to make them call you?"
yeah.
I think that you give them a number that will make them call you, and you A/B test for that.
Yeah. Then that's what we want. We want to excite the market.
Hmm. Yeah, my market's doing that. It's getting pretty spicy but fragmented and turbulent, changing dramatically as we go through this year. Talk to some agents and they're like, "Oh my goodness, it's crazy," and you talk to other agents and they're like, "I can't find someone to work with. Like, I'm just super slow."
Yeah. Okay. So I love to say that a lot of people pick us for our flashy front end and the video and all that stuff. But recently sold a home for there were people PCSing from Germany. PCS is military, so they're coming in from Germany to where we live, where there's an Air Force base close. And and I said, how'd you find us? She wound up joining my real estate team, by the way, after doing all this stuff. She got her license and joined my team. She was like, this is a great job. I'm like, yeah, harder than you think. But anyway,
Yeah,
she's
come
great.
on in.
She's gonna do awesome.
Water's warm. Yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna do awesome. So I asked them, why'd you choose to work with me? And they're like, well, we got online and we looked at all these agents and we sent like 10 agents a message and you were the only one to respond. And I was like, it wasn't anything else. And they're like, nope. And they said, but after you responded, we went and looked at all your stuff and we are like, oh, this is a really great get. Uh, but that's the sad status of affairs is that agents just aren't responding. And there are a lot of people that aren't getting lucky. They're not getting one of the local top producers to respond. They're just getting some person that's in that 13% or in that 87% that's going to fail. And then that gives all of us agents a bad name. So agents that are out there, I mean, you gotta pick up the phone. You gotta respond. If somebody sends you a message, send a message back.
most of our friends respond. Like you hang out with a lot of top producing agents, like
Yeah,
inside industry, and that's something that you and I also have in common. Like
yeah,
you have to get together with the sharpest tools to sharpen yourself, right?
yeah,
And a lot of them, like men, they'll pick up second ring. Like they're a lot of people think, oh, top agents are unavailable and too busy to talk to anybody. And it's like, no, sharks swim all the time. That's like part of how they're made.
yeah, yeah. Good point.
Um, so when you're looking into the rest of this year
Hmm.
and thinking about how you're going to approach the market, is anything changing?
Yeah. So we are. I'm dogged, determined to close out the year really strong.
Mhm.
So we're doing contests on our teams. We are not letting up. One of the things that happened after the pandy in our market, we always had this not really kind of cyclical, not really cyclical. Like everyone always asks, like, what's the best month to sell a house? In our market, it was March. I did 65 years worth of research. If you closed in March, you would sell just a little bit higher than average. There are more closings in March. So that means listing in February, selling in March was a really good time. But if you look at the data, like I stacked the data to find that information monthly. But if you didn't stack it, if you put it end to end, one of the things that you would see is this upward trend every single year. So by saying March, that was true that that year it had a little bit of a bump, but the next January was higher than that March. So whenever you are looking at the oh, thanks for posting that. Yes, Enneagram Universe. I believe that's right. Uh, Whenever we're looking at all the data, it suggests that earlier in the spring is like really when you make your money. And then that means by default that the last quarter of the year tends to be slower. Well, when the pandy happened, everything shifted. So instead of all of these sales and transactions and all of these listings hitting the market in May, which would have additional competition, all these buyers coming into the market in May and June, everything shifted about 2 months to July and August, which is weird because August here is when school starts and usually people are trying to get settled by then. But for a couple of years, June, July, August were hot instead of April, May, June. Now, with everything happening with our Fed and how the Fed has refused to drop rates despite everyone in the entire world dropping rates, and he said it's not political. Besides that happening, or because of that happening, the July August market has shifted and is now looking like it's not picking up until September, October. So we are like full bore. You know, everyone else is selling, is like celebrating PSL time of season and pumpkins and, you know, kind of relaxing through the holidays. Not us. I think this is going to be a huge Q4 for us because of the announcement that the Fed is going to lower rates next week, even though that's already been priced in for the last 2, 3 weeks. But that announcement alone is going to send people into the market. So because of that, I'm trying to like grab everything I can right now. Every listing lead, every buyer lead, I'm just like trying to snatch as much as I can right now because I think that's going to, I mean, now's the time. And I think we'll probably have more sales in Q4 than any other quarter this year.
That's awesome. And I've also felt like the only way I've ever been able to secure a great Q1 is coming off a hot Q4.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true too. I mean, you work hard in Q4 and your Q1 is great.
Yeah.
If you don't work hard through that time period, you just might as well just pack it in and wait until Q2.
Man, it is so much like dragging uphill if you
Yeah.
lose momentum in the fourth.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, we're gonna end up packing up this recorded part of the podcast, but
Awesome.
there's some people that are kicking it right now, right here live with us on Zoom, and you can too. So if you can find this podcast on the Real Estate Magazine webpage, then you can also join us next time where we'll be here. And very likely, if Ray would agree, we'll have him back.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
love to.
and Andrew is somebody that you should meet as well. Andrew's not with us this week, But we will have definitely more hair than I've got here next week when you'll get the two of us again. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We're going to skip to the after show. And if you need anything further, you can reach out to us. I can be found on Instagram. Where can you be found, Ray?
Best place to find me where everything is on Instagram. I am Ray Zorback. That's RayZorback. Because I support the Razorbacks, Arkansas Razorbacks, Woo Pig Suey. So find me there, Ray Zorback, RayZorback, and then I've got links to everything else from there.
That sounds awesome.
Bye,
Cheers.
everybody. Thanks for having me.